Check. So, what's up, y'all? Happy Friday, TGIF. It's December 12th, 2025. Near the end of the semester, I'm getting done grading, also getting ready to go back home to Chicago for the holidays, and I'm very excited about that. But ultimately, what I wanted to talk about today has to do with Sherrone Moore. And I wanted to talk about him in a little bit of a different way than sports talk shows are sort of giving coverage to him right now. Now, Moore, until very recently, was the head football coach at the University of Michigan. Uh, he followed a national championship season, signed a major contract for about 30 million, and on the field he looked like a success story, right? And in less than 48 hours, that story has completely collapsed. The university has fired him for what was called an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Not long after, he was arrested. Now he faces charges for stalking, home invasion, and assault tied to that very same staffer. Now, I'm less interested here in the football fallout, and I'm more interested in the racial and gender optics that make this case feel so charged for a lot of the black folks that I know, people that I follow on Instagram, people that are in my DMs, people that are in my group chats, so on and so forth, right? Moore's a prominent black man at a powerful PWI, predominantly white institution, married to a white woman. The staff member he's accused of having the affair with is a white woman. That alone taps into a very old story in American culture, a story that says that when black men make it, quote unquote, they leave black women behind. They trade partners the same way they trade zip codes. We've seen this story, right? Projected on the figures like OJ Simpson and Tiger Woods. We see pop culture, we see rap lyrics, we see gossip blogs, we see versions of group chats in digital spaces that have recycled some version of the line that when a black man gets some money, he goes and gets a white girl, right? Or a white woman. And the thing is, statistics do not say that most men marry out. Most black men who marry still marry black women. And that's a statistical fact. You could go look that up. But spectacle beats statistics every single time. So when this type of scandal hits, it not only lands in a neutral space for many of my black women friends, including my black wife, the reaction has been he's getting what's coming to him, right? Not because they wish violence on anyone, but because they see a pattern. They see a black man who has benefited from black communities, from black labor, from black fandom, now living and loving in a world where whiteness is centered. And then apparently using his institutional power that he's been given, you know, that he's been blessed with in very reckless and harmful ways. And I don't think it's as simple as saying a black man in an interracial relationship is betraying his people. You know, love is messy. I know that firsthand. Desire is complicated. There is no single correct way to be black, but it is also true that we live inside of a history where white women have often felt, oh, where black women rather have felt discarded and disrespected. And black men who attain a certain status act as if they are living in a post racial fantasy. And that's a part of what I see in this story. A man who may have started to believe that his success put him above the rules, above university policy, above basic power dynamics of boss and employee, above the long record of how quickly institutions will distance themselves from a black man the moment he gives them a reason. And there's another hard truth here. Whatever we say about race and romance, the allegations involve stalking, threats, and violence. There's a woman whose safety had to be protected by the state. There's a family that is now in crisis. And there's a pattern across universities and industries of men with power abusing that power and then collapsing when their behavior comes to light. We cannot let racial analysis become an excuse to minimize that. So when I look at Chiron Moore, I see three things at once. I see a personal moral failure. I see a racial story about a successful black man um, who partners outside of the black community. And then I see how black communities feel about that. But then I also see a cautionary tale about the lie of post racial safety. No black man in a job like his is ever above history. You are still carrying your skin. your community's memories, the weight of what happens when your private choices spill into public harm. Again, this is not a personal indictment. I have made my own mistakes that have done damage to my own career. And so I don't want to make this a personal indictment, but I also want to be honest about how this hits me personally. I've never really ever had a serious relationship with a white woman romantically. People assume that has become that is strictly because I love black women, and I do. I was raised by a black woman who poured into me, helped me up. My sister, my grandmother, my aunts, all these women that were around me who held me up when the world uh, was built to tear me down. Loving black women feels natural for me because they are the blueprint for what I understand to be care, humor, brilliance, and beauty. But if I'm being real, that's not the only thing that shapes my choices. It's also a fear of this exact kind of scenario, fear of what it means to be a black man in America whose private life can very quickly be a public referendum on the worthiness of all black men, fear of stepping into an interracial relationship for me in a country that has a history that's loaded with violence, myth, and projection on black men, fear of how institutions might respond differently to me as a black man if conflict arises. And then who would they instinctually believe, right? There's not a fear about demonizing white women for me. It's about understanding the country I live in, the body I live in. It's about knowing that my mistakes, if I make them, are less likely to be treated as individual lapses and more likely to be folded into a collective stereotype that other black men will have to carry. So when I watch someone like Chiron Moore move through the world as a success has placed him above the rules, above that history, I feel two things at once. I feel sadness that he didn't see the trap he was walking into. I feel anger that his choices now become a data point in a story that will be used against black men, against black women who already feel betrayed. And if we're going to talk about this story honestly, we have to hold all of this together all at the same time. We still have to be able to condemn and abuse, but still condemn the abuse, um, but still analyze race. We have to be able to critique the fantasy of post-racial success without turning every interracial relationship into evidence of that betrayal. And we have to admit that for many of us, the way we love and the way we move in a world that is not just shaped by desire, but also an intimate awareness of how quickly our lives can be turned into cautionary tales, we got to stay woke. And I'm going to leave that there. Thank you for listening. That's my thesis.